Okay, I'm just sharing on other pages. All right, good afternoon and welcome to the 1873 FM radio. My name is Wildfire DJ. Right, hopefully I find you all well and the circumstances quarantine. We've taken to broadcasting from different locations. Wherever we are, we're able to broadcast. Right, this afternoon we're bringing you a very interesting topic or something that's topical. The big judgment has happened in Zimbabwe, and those are the things that we'll be looking at this afternoon. And obviously, Obert Gutu has weighed in on the big judgment. He's had his say, he's had his views on this judgment. So I'll be joined also by the 1873 chairman, Mutuma Mawere, right, on the conversation. And also to the viewers and the listeners of the 1873 FM, if you've got questions, contributions, you are more than welcome to do so via our social media platforms. That's on Facebook and Twitter at the 1873 FM. Right, we'll share with you what was said by Obert Gutu in terms of the big judgment that has taken place. Try more. You're already asking Hanzina Gutu. Right, all that is coming on this 30-minute broadcast that we are bringing to you this afternoon. Right, so stay tuned to the 1873 FM. And those who are joining us via different social media platforms, Mvenge Mvenge, the 1873 TV, we welcome you on board. Right, so I pick it up. Obert Gutu says, Chamisa has been shouting all over the place that President Emmerson Mnangagwa is an illegitimate president of Zimbabwe. How ironic is this? Who is illegitimate after all? He should look himself squarely in the mirror in order for him to see fully fledged prototype of an illegitimate political leader. He now has got to present his candidature for the MDC presidency at the forthcoming extraordinary Congress, failing which he would have de facto admitted that he is now leading his own political party, which will be legally barred from using the same name, Movement for Democratic Change, directly and or indirectly. Right, that's what Gutu had to say. Mr. M, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
All right, we are looking at the big judgment this afternoon. And obviously, we've got Mr. Obert Gutu that has had his say regarding let's say, the former president of MDC Alliance, Nelson Chamisa.
Yeah, no, I think we're just looking at storytelling and looking at conversation.
Yes.
There are many conversations that are taking place. Our behind the scenes on the same issue. And yes, this is one such conversation between me and former Senator Gutu and former Deputy Minister of Justice. And what kind of conversations are these? and what do we draw from such conversations?
Yes.
That is the real test. That there is a lot that is taking place. People who know nothing about the issues are saying something, and where do you go? When the whole market is polluted by views. Some of them may have validity, some of them don't, and we don't know normally where to get wisdom from.
Yes.
That's the challenge we face.
All right. And if we look at what Obert Gutu had to share, his own opinion and his own views regarding this whole judgment, I caught where he says Nelson Chamisa has been
No, you can
shouting all over the place that President.
share with the other people because it's about sharing. I think those views, you may not want me to keep them to myself. So if you got something worth sharing, what does it say on Facebook? What's on your mind? And on Twitter, it says something else, is it?
Yeah, which is why I'm reading it because I'm not able to share it on the screen.
Oh, you're not able
Yes.
to share. How come?
No, I'm not able to share on the screen. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So you can just read what it is and then let the people judge.
Okay. All right. He says he has been shouting all over the place that President Emerson Mnangagwa is an illegitimate president of Zimbabwe. How ironic is this? Who is, sorry, lost that. Who is illegitimate after all? He should look himself squarely in the mirror in order for him to see a fully fledged prototype of an illegitimate political leader. He now has got to present his candidature for the MDC presidency at the forthcoming extraordinary Congress, which he would have de facto admitted that he is now leading his own political party, which will be legally barred from using the name Movement for Democratic Change directly or indirectly. Right. So I guess he also weighs in on the issue of Nelson Chamisa, who was calling on President Emerson Mnangagwa that he is an illegitimate president. I don't know your take, your thoughts on this statement.
I think the facts are that there was a dispute regarding succession following the death of the former president of the MDCT party. At the time, I think there was one issue whether the vice presidents were properly elected, were properly appointed, because the two of them were appointed by the late president, and one was elected at Congress. And what does the Constitution say or doesn't say, and who should have been the successor to Morgan Tsvangirai in terms of the MDCT constitution. So I don't think that is the same as the issue of the general election. Look at the general election, candidates, 23 of them presented themselves for the general populace, not only members of the individual parties to elect. And the results were then announced. There was a dispute. That dispute then was dealt with by the Constitutional Court. Nobody can deny that Chamisa garnered a substantial number of votes during that election. So the legitimacy issue between Chamisa and Mnangagwa involves matters of state, matters of government, not such political matters. And I think Senator Gutu would be alive to that that when it comes to national matters, it is not limited to the party membership. And this judgment is about affairs of the party. And the judgment does not deal with the 2018 elections.
Yes. I think this is also where Trimo is posing a question. He says, ask Gutu if the Supreme Court also transferred the 2.6 million voters to MDC T Kupe.
Yeah, the issue of the Supreme Court deciding, what did they decide? What was the dispute before the Supreme Court? The dispute essentially involved a question as to what the correct interpretation of the MDCT constitution is and was at the material time, whether Chamisa should have stepped into the position of the presidency, and if so, on what legal basis or constitutional basis. I think that issue is what the court resolved, and whether there can be any imputation of powers or what events took place after that, that is beyond beyond the scope of this discussion, and beyond what obviously the court could adjudicate.
Yes. Okay. Let me also go on another question that has been posed before we continue with the statement by Obert Gutu. Mr. Mutumwa, do you think it's now the right time for a new political party? MDC is too compromised.
I don't think there is a whistle that needs to be used to determine whether it's the right time for any party. I think the difficulty people have, and we all have, is we have a person-driven political institution building. So you have MDCT, MDCC, perhaps you are going to have another one called MDC Chamisa or MDC Alliance. But if it was issues-driven, and the issue is the rule of law and constitutionalism, why do you need a constitution if you don't intend to obey it? All that is required is for leaders to show their leadership from the front. And if there is a judgment that you must go to a Congress where you have the majority, it's just a question of time anyway. The majority that you enjoy is not going to evaporate simply because you don't control the presidency. Remember that Mugabe fired the vice.
Yes.
What happened? He says, you can't fire me. He challenged that in court and came back and removed him. So this idea that the end justifies the means has to be the beginning of something different. And you need that difference. Because what prejudice would Chamisa suffer? If he went there, even on his knees, and said, I am a constitutionalist. I want to show what happened in ZANU is wrong. That you can unseat a president without even following the rules of your own party. And here you have a court saying the rules were not followed. Yet, in the case of ZANU-PF, the Chief Justice roughshod all that and said, you don't need the rules. Mugabe signed and evaporated.
So does this mean that there is a selective judgment, or there is a selective use of the Constitution and rule of law?
No, all it says that there are two matters, there are two disputes. Mnangagwa, the Mnangagwa issue, it was not him in court, it was someone challenging.
Yeah.
And all the court would say that in the final analysis, the succession was based on party issues. If the party presented Mnangagwa as their choice, however that a choice was created or generated, it's irrelevant. So Mnangagwa ought to be the rightful successor because the choice is left to the party. The court cannot intervene. So it was not the question that was before the judge.
Yeah.
In this case, the question that was before the judge was whether the MDCT constitution should be the basis on which succession ought to be determined. And that's what the dispute was. So you can't compare one with the other.
Okay. All right. As we continue, before we actually come back to read more comments, let's proceed with a statement by Obert Gutu. All right. He says, on numerous occasions in the past, I came out publicly and vehemently arguing that the late Morgan Tsvangirai's successor as a leader of the MDC had to be elected at an extraordinary Congress in accordance with the dictates of the party constitution. However, this didn't happen because some political opportunists couldn't even wait for the iconic Morgan Tsvangirai to be laid to rest before they illegally and violently grabbed power. Right. That's the first part of the second message. So you touches on the succession issue. I think you also at some point, Mr. M, touched on this when you had conversations with the brothers of the late MDC leader Morgan Tsvangirai. Gutu goes on to allude that before even Morgan Tsvangirai was buried, there was already a power struggle and some individuals were power grabbing.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying that in terms of their own constitution, there was a mechanism that would be followed in the succession battle. It was the succession battle. But in terms of the constitution, the format and the process was already laid out that the deputy president would then assume the position and preside over the party and take the party to the next Congress as an acting president. So there will not be a substantive president. There would have been an acting president in terms of that.
Yeah.
So the issue was that process followed. That's what Gutu is saying. That on principle he differed with some other members of the party who felt that anyone who is popular ought to be able to step into the shoes outside the provisions of the constitution.
Okay. Victor Nyasha says Nelson Chamisa is a legitimate leader of MDC Alliance and they are the leaders of the MDC. It's simple, so they can continue with it. I'm not sure if Victor, you read the judgment and heard what the judgment was about. All right, and then let's see if we got some more contributions that are coming in here. Emmanuel Nyakonda says Obert is a bitter man. Then we've got Tambirai who says, so the MDCA did put forward an illegitimate candidate for the general elections. Is this the case, though, that an illegitimate candidate was put in place for the 2018 elections?
No, I think there has to be some discussion around that. Some people call Gutu a bitter man.
Yeah.
But even a dog will be called bitter when it's barking. Let's listen to the bark. What is he saying? And is he not a friend of any Democrat, any person who subscribes to the rule of law? You may discover that actually you need voices like Gutu at this time to be able to tell you what the alternative is. Because one day someone will get into power and does make mistakes, and people get pissed off. What should happen?
Yeah.
And if the courts cannot come to the rescue of disputing parties, what will be the next step? It will be anarchy, chaos,
Mm.
and unruly behavior. And that's what I see Senator Gutu trying to say.
Yeah.
Then I think Tambira says the illegitimacy.
Yes.
Uh,
It touches on the issue of illegitimacy.
that the candidate is not illegitimate because the candidate, as we now know and we ought to know, was a candidate for the MDC alliance. So Chamisa fought the elections as the leader of that alliance. Whether it was an alliance of parties or an alliance of persons, that's a debate for another day.
Yeah.
But for now, he was the legitimate leader, and the people of Zimbabwe were entitled to pronounce their opinion on Chamisa's legitimacy. They didn't declare him illegitimate, and the number
Yeah.
of votes that he got cannot be illegitimate votes because people were conscious, they knew of the debate and the cloud around the whole MDC succession issue. So to the extent that a substantial number of people did vote for Chamisa to be the face of the president of the country, then surely one must test legitimacy on that basis, not on the basis of this judgment.
Okay. All right. As we continue, he then says the chickens have now come home to roast. What goes around comes around. Law and order has finally prevailed over violence and crass hooliganism, laced with rapacious political greed and opportunism. The Supreme Court judgment is sound and unassailable. It's a brilliantly written, and both the factual and legal arguments were exquisitely explored and ventilated. That judgment is a milestone in the field of constitutionalism, jurisprudence in Zimbabwe, and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's what Senator Gutu is saying, and he's got his own reasons for it.
Yeah.
But one has to balance that view with the reality on the ground. That there are people who believe in Chamisa's leadership.
Yes.
There are people who believe and did vote. And but that doesn't take away the issues that Gutu is raising. That one illegitimacy cannot create legitimacy at the next station. When you are born out of illegitimacy, then it condemns your trajectory. That is in the interest of democracy, in the interest of rule of law. That's why the court did not order cost on any of the parties, because this is a milestone judgment. It helps people sober up so that people don't resort to the animalistic nature of mind, where people decide to resolve disputes through violence.
Yes.
This dispute could easily have been resolved in 2018 before the elections, and some obviously would have been disappointed. Some would have been elected in the new architecture, but so be it. What the court is saying is that they had no choice but to pronounce an opinion on what the strict wording of the Constitution is, and the authority that is in the Constitution
Yeah.
allows somebody to succeed a deceased president. That Constitution is there, and was it followed? What Gutu is saying, it was not followed to the spirit and letter of it, and some people were marginalized as a consequence. Those who were against this conduct or approach that he classifies as unconstitutional conduct, obviously they were thrown under the bus.
Right. We also have Leslie who says, I agree with Mutuma Mawere. Prince Talending Nyoni says, Chawora Chin Ichi. And then Emmanuel Nyakonda says, how many people in the 2014 are still alive? Right, let me see if we can squeeze in a couple of other contributions. Emmanuel says, ZANU did the same and Malawi blocked it. And then Freddie Martin says, do you think if it was Coupe is going to get 2.6 million, Chamisa is a brand? All right. I guess there's some people that think that Chamisa is the brand of the MDC. If it was Coupe, was she going to get the 2.6 million votes that Nelson Chamisa was able to garner? Trimo says Mliswa was an independent. Chamisa will whitewash ED, Coupe, and others. If even as an independent, they should dump this MDC. Is this the way forward for Chamisa to drop the brand MDC and form his own or go independent?
No, I'm saying is the dispute revolves around this idea called MDCT. What was in it that was worth fighting for?
Yeah.
Perhaps that's another area of interrogation. What really was this a party?
Yeah.
And how do we then
Hello? Right, I think we've got a connectivity issue there with Mr. M. We'll try and reconnect. Right, Dr. Prophet Obert Gutu says, Sekuru Makadi, tell me, how is Mnangagwa legitimate since they used unseating of Robert Mugabe? Right, can we relate the Nelson Chamisa case to the Emerson Mnangagwa's case when he took over from Robert Mugabe? I think, Dr. Prophet, you would know that on the President Mnangagwa's case, they went to the High Court, and the High Court nullified the firing of Emerson Mnangagwa, which ruled him legitimate. But then if we look at the Nelson Chamisa case, there is reports that he grabbed power from Morgan Tsvangirai before he was even buried. So I'm trying to weigh in the two scenarios and see if the two relate. And to our viewers and listeners also, you can tell us your thoughts, your views on the two cases. Are they the same? Is Emerson Mnangagwa illegitimate, just like Chamisa is illegitimate as well? All right, welcome back.
Okay, sorry, sir.
Yeah. All right. So I was still going through some of the comments. We've got Sekuru, Dr. Prophet Obey, who says, Sekuru Makadi, tell me, how is Mnangagwa legitimate since they used the same unseating of Robert Mugabe?
They will argue that the facts are different. And their argument is based on the following. That Mnangagwa was unlawfully fired.
Yeah.
The position of vice president. And that firing was done outside the presidency. That the president was captured by his wife and other members of the cabal. And when push came to the shove, the same president invited Mnangagwa to come back to Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
and Mnangagwa refused and said the voice of the people is the voice of God.
Yes.
So Mnangagwa was a product of the people, because the people who forced Mugabe to resign, and he was going to be impeached anyway.
But then, sorry, Mr. M, when you say that Mnangagwa was the product of the people, which people are we referring to here?
He says there were massive demonstrations that would not have ended if Mugabe did not vacate office. And Mnangagwa was outside the country while these demonstrations were taking place.
Right.
So Mnangagwa became the savior or the messiah. So God called him back to restore the country.
So he is he regards himself as the Moses of the people of Zimbabwe.
That's what he not regards. That's what he says, and that's what the people who support him also believe in. That he was he came in to rescue an ungovernable situation where people were marching on the streets, black, white, and short, tall, fat, thin, women, men, girls, and boys. They were all marching to remove Mugabe. So the removal of Mugabe was
the ushering in of Emerson Mnangagwa.
No. The removal of Mugabe was an independent action caused spontaneously by the people of Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And that led to parliament convening so that they could proceed to impeach him.
Okay.
Mugabe, in the face of impeachment, chose to resign on his own.
Right.
So Mnangagwa did not play a part in that. That's what Mnangagwa is saying. So I am not a coup leader. The army intervened to correct a situation where decisions were being made.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I don't agree with you. He failed with the masses in MDC. How will he do as an individual? I guess this is Prince Talent Nyoni. That's his response. And then we've got Leslie, who says, for the good of this opposition, MDC to come back into reality, join hands and walk the same tune as before in the 90s. All right. Is this the time for the MDC parties to come to play? I think if we read, if we go back to the statement by Obert Gutu, where he said that if Chamisa is to come back, he has to submit his name for the candidature. But is Chamisa prepared to submit his name, or he's just thrown in the towel, he's going to walk it alone and run as an independent? Or will we see the leaders within the MDC putting their heads together, coming in to work together?
No, they are saying that in Zimbabwe, you are free to organize your own political party. And in this case, if a regard is head to what BT and other people are saying, a Welshman, they are saying there is a new party, and that is called MDC Alliance. That party at the Congress in 2019.
Yes.
And Chamisa was elected the president of this party. And therefore, they don't have any other elections. They don't have a court order to have an accelerated Congress or an immediate Congress. So within the MDC Alliance, there is no crisis.
Yeah.
At all. So they don't understand how this judgment will affect the MDC Alliance with its president. So they are not members of the MDC team,
Mhm.
and therefore they are not bound by the court decision.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's important to understand the arguments.
Mm.
So Senator Gutu is making a different argument that this judgment, if it was innocuous and useless, why then did Kamisa appeal it? Why appeal a judgment that doesn't affect you
Mhm.
and wait for it only to complain when it's adverse against you?
Yeah.
Why didn't Kamisa just walk away and say, I'm not going to appeal the lower court judgment? So
Mm.
there is something that is in the judgment that threatens even the MDC alliance. I would think so.
Right.
The
Okay.
question is to find
That's-
what it is.
All right. Okay. Let's go back and finish up the statement by Honorable Gutu here. It says the analysis of the relevant provisions of the Constitution that I have articulated in addressing the grounds of appeal make it abundantly clear that the second appellant's accent to the helm of the party was fraudulently flawed by gross constitutional irregularities. To perpetuate that situation without appropriate correction would only undermine the ethos and dictates of the Constitution, but would also infringe the rights of all the party's members to a constitutionally elected leadership. It would further operate to violate the foundation values enunciated in Section 3, Chapter 1 of the National Constitution, to wit, the rule of law and its concomitant doctrine of legality, as well as the principles of good governance. That is as per Judge Bharat Patel.
Yeah. So he is making the point that when you submit yourself to a process, you must
Mhm.
see it to the end. And when you
Yeah,
see it to the end, then you have an exit point. And
yeah,
that exit point is a judgment. So it is this judgment that people ought to focus on.
yeah.
And he fully associates himself with the findings of the court.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Trimo says he failed what 2018. They all participated, and Coupe got about 450,000. Chamisa is now a brand known worldwide. All right. Other comments. Tambirai Chizonga says to maintain order, we need to respect judgments passed by our courts and also follow the Constitution, be it at party or national level. It's not rocket science, is it? I guess those are some of
Yeah,
the.
what Tambira is saying without favor or prejudice, that
Mhm.
if you have a constitution, follow
Yes.
it. If you put your rules, don't be above the rules,
Mhm.
because that's the one precedent too many.
Mhm.
And if a culture of people being unaccountable because they are popular,
Yeah.
where would you stop the populism then?
Mhm.
Because if I'm popular, then I am not subject to the same
Yes.
rules other people are. What kind of message would someone be sending
Mhm.
that says, I don't, the constitution, the judgment does not apply to me? It must apply to others. If he had won, then obviously it would have applied
Mhm.
to him. So why go before a judge?
Yes.
You are contemptuous of that process anyway.
Mhm. Okay. How did he fail? Their constitution was correct. Leslie says, I agree. Thank you, my brother. Emmanuel comes back. Who wants to make noise? Okay. not sure if okay. Lord Tendai Blessing the seventh says, Chamisa Chete Chete, we thank God for President Chamisa. Yes, Chamisa must accept the judgment and form new part of, and as an independent, he will still trash these charlatans. All right, and then charlatans, yes, sorry. And then Kelvin Mapeta says, is it the judgment doesn't, the constitutional judgment doesn't affect the alliance in any way? Is that is that it? That the alliance is not being affected by this judgment?
Only a naive person will say that. Because there was no reason for Chamisa to appeal if there was no impact.
Impact on the alliance.
Yeah. So if you argue that the assumption of power by Chamisa was unlawful, ultra vires the constitution of the MDC,
yes,
what follows then? It means all the decisions made by Chamisa in his capacity as MDCT, where do they lie? Do they become void, or they can be enforced? Second, assume there was money paid to MDCT.
Yes.
That money was used for the purpose of campaigning for the MDCA. What then would follow? Would another application follow where the MDCT is constituted now go demands all that money back to the party?
Right. And then Charles Joao says, what is the way forward if people who were in MDC structures refuse to participate in Congress?
It doesn't matter, because the order is in favor of the applicant that they must. So it doesn't say the current members, they can go as 100 people. People are invited to the Congress and there's a quorum. They will proceed with the business of the party. The only difference is that the party will be the one that is fighting whoever took money from the party. If there's any money to support for. Because this is not a simple matter. The people who have taken the position to implement the court order, they know what they're doing. And they know that the MDC alliance is not a home for them.
Yeah.
Most of them went to Gweru, Congress, and they lost. Or they were thrown
under the bus.
The bus.
Yeah.
So if they claim and they file a lawsuit against the MDC alliance, demanding all the money that was spent in the name of MDC alliance, when in truth and fact that money ought to have been MDCT. Can you see the problem?
Yeah, I see that. I see that. So this is a power struggle that we are witnessing.
No, this is a legal construction. Anyone who if there was nothing at stake in MDCT, there was no equity value left by Morgan Tsvangirai, why would you fight over nothing? Yeah. Why would you defend an application when you could have just ignored it and set up your MDC alliance? Why go to court and appeal? Because this was an appeal against an earlier judgment. Yeah. So why would you appeal?
If there was nothing to gain or if there was nothing to benefit from the MDC.
Yeah, and it's academic.
All right. Okay, let's also quickly look at some of the comments coming in. These guys, Komichi and Monzora, went all the way to Congress, build those structures, and today they turn to wanting to correct an error. They all competed all. The fact is, these guys are at the verge of pulling out BT, Ngube, and the Alliance. They find a vacuum in their way if these guys proceed and stay in the MDC.
I don't know about that.
Right.
And I don't know about what is at play. I think it's better to be sober.
Yeah.
Because there's more. There may be more at play than what meets the eye. So it's important for us to fasten our seat belts, and the people who are in the fray, they know what is at stake. But from an observer point of view, if nothing affects you, why worry?
You just move on and continue living your life on a daily basis.
You just abide by the court.
Okay, Emmanuel says Obert has always been against MDC well before the elections. Also, prosecutors that's why all this.
Now I'm saying Obert is a member, voluntary member of the MDC. Why would he be against his own party? Why would his challenge against the president be seen as a challenge against the MDC? He is challenging the actions, not the president. Obert Gutu is not saying that you should not go for elections for Congress. But it must be the MDC that Morgan left. That's what their argument is. Many people actually, until death, could not even criticize Mugabe.
Yeah.
And then after they remove him, they say restore legacy, which means there's something that happened under Mugabe's watch.
Yes.
So
and now they're correcting the mistakes, presumably that would have happened during Mugabe's era.
That's right. So how can you say there were mistakes and you were part of the mistakes?
And what is it that you are going to restore that you couldn't restore when you're still part of the mistake that was happening?
Yeah. Then Shepherd says what?
These are the works of the ruling party. They are now laughing at MDC. Chamisa must just start a new party with a new name without MDC in it. People don't like MDC, but they like Chamisa. Is that a fact, Shepard, that people are following Chamisa or the party?
They can't follow the party. Chamisa is the one who is charismatic. So he's saying that if you are charismatic like a pastor, the pastor tells you after the lockdown that I want to save your life. Why didn't they save the lives when Corona was visiting?
I mean, apparently some of them are waiting for the coronavirus to end so that they can come out and pray for the sick.
Yeah, that's what even Malema was saying. But even these people, they are also looking at what?
Yeah.
They are also looking at this, the business that will come after and the message that will come after. That it was God's plan to bring
Yeah. Okay. Moving along, but there is an agreement in place which stipulates that a leader of MDCT will be the leader of the MDCA. This is where we have legitimate issues because Chamisa did ascend to power using a defective procedure contrary to the MDCT constitution.
Yeah, he's got a point. He's raising a fundamental issue that absent MDCT,
Yes.
Chamisa, where would the alliance be? Because the alliance was between political parties,
Yes.
not between individuals. So MDCT now with the Coupe, they can approach the court now.
Yeah.
Yeah, to seek whatever remedy they may seek if there's a problem. That Chamisa is not their president, so therefore cannot be the president of the alliance, because the presidency is reserved for MDCT. And how can you have a SADC? Let's say I wanted to be a member of SADC.
Yeah.
How would I do it? Can I be a member of SADC?
Yes, you have to be a member of SADC first.
No, I have to be a member state.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I mean, your state has to be a member of SADC. That's how you can then run for any posts that are available.
Yeah, to be you have to be a state first. So you have to be a party. So if a party that qualified Chamisa to be an aspirant, if that party had done so unlawfully, how then can Chamisa lead the alliance of parties?
All right. I think this is where Charles also comes in and says, what will be the way forward if 2014 MDC structures reject participation in this new Congress?
They will not reject it unless Chamisa shows up. If Chamisa doesn't show up, they will convene the Congress. Remember, even Coupe set up another MDC outfit called MDC, and they have office bearers. So it doesn't stop the show.
Right. Tongai says Chamisa did not grab power but was appointed by the National Assembly of the MDC. And then
you can't appoint, the power is not vested in the assembly. Yeah.
And then there's one that's directed at you. Mutumwa, be honest with what you are saying.
Okay, if I'm not honest, don't threaten me. Just say on this point you missed it. Then I can learn from you. Because I will have to revise or replay the whole conversation. If there's something
where you're not honest,
if you think there's something that is dishonest, you are free to say so.
Right, we've got 7 minutes to go before we wrap up this segment. Let's go back and finish up on the statement by Obert Gutu, and keep those questions, comments coming through. We will definitely pick them up on this segment. All right. Let me see. Nelson Chamisa has got to subject himself for election at the forthcoming extraordinary Congress if he wants to cure the fatal constitution irregularity in his ascendancy to the MDC presidency. If he chooses to ignore the Supreme Court judgment, he is at liberty to form his own political party that doesn't use the name Movement for Democratic Change. If he continues to use the name MDC Alliance whilst at the same time disobeying the Supreme Court judgment, the following things will happen. Right. A, as a registered legal practitioner, he would be reported to the Law Society of Zimbabwe for disciplinary action to be taken against him for deliberately and flagrantly disobeying a lawful court order. That's point one. Then B, contempt of court proceedings will be instituted against him. C, a court verdict will be obtained against him and his allies to stop them from using the name MDC Alliance, party logos, party symbols, etc., etc. Right. So I guess this is where a decision has to be made here. Does he go for the Congress and submit his name? Does he disobey the judgment, or does he formulate his own political party, which has nothing to do with the MDC brand?
I think you've already set out what Gutu is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And you can assume that it's an informed decision, an informed opinion. That Gutu is acutely aware of the implications of the judgment, and Chamisa was aware and is aware. That's why he was appealing.
Mm-hmm.
There was no need to appeal the judgment in which it doesn't affect you. So there is something that people are not talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What does this judgment mean to MDC, a member of MDCT, and to the alliance? And why was the alliance led by MDCT? And whoever took control of MDCT would naturally end up the leader of MDC alliance.
Mm-hmm.
The issue that it revolves around decisions that were done. Imagine if the court ruled that the assumption of power was unlawful, illegal,
Mm-hmm.
unconstitutional. Then what follows in respect of the decisions made?
Yeah.
Would the decisions be lawful because we are popular? Would be the decisions
Okay.
rational?
Sorry, Mr. M, I can hardly hear you.
I'm saying, yeah, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So, what would be the quality of the decisions made when president of MDCT?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is the test now. And
Okay.
everyone is arguing that Gutu and them and Monzora, they know the value of seizing control of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said the judgment is moot. They don't understand what moot means. It doesn't mean the judgment has no consequence.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I also there's Tambira says the judgment will affect the MDC A because according to agreement in place which brought the alliance together, the leader of the alliance must be the leader of the MDCT, which turns out to be Madam Kupe, not Chamisa. Ndopanenyaya ipapo.
That's what Monzora was saying, that for the 3 months, a MDC alliance cannot be led by somebody who is not a member of the MDCT, because
Yes.
MDCT is part of that contract.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a part of popular people, MDC alliance.
Yeah.
No. It was a party formed out of other parties.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the test. And judgment was overtaken by events. It doesn't get overtaken by events because the judgment relates to a dispute.
Yeah.
And that dispute has not been overtaken by events. That dispute remains as to who should succeed Changirai, whether in 2018 or today. And what
Right.
will be the mechanism for replacing Changirai?
Mm-hmm.
Then comment on moot judgment. Moot doesn't mean it's irrelevant. Moot just applies to the cause of action. That if you wanted to reverse the clock of time, you can't do it, but it does have an effect.
Right.
So this smoothness, there are people who are taking it opportunistically. The judge ruled, and that ruling was in respect of a justiciable dispute that was before him. That was before the court. There were 3 judges,
Yeah.
and that dispute has been resolved. The constitution of the MDC is the guide for who should succeed.
All right. And finally, the other one here, the final comment from Charles says, why are remedies being sought in court, not in the people who voluntarily subscribe to MDC?
No, that's not the, once you elect people, they become overbearing. The court could not be persuaded to agree that the constitution of the MDC had no impact. It did. And the court found that the deputy president of the party at the time when Chakrai died automatically becomes an acting president and prepares the party for the Congress. So that is not moot. You can't then say, what did Togo Kupe do as a second step? Because if the first step was not taken, she would not have formed her own party. So she formed the party because there was a blockage. Because the rule of law was suspended to allow a popular person to take the step forward, using the party name and party resources, if there are any. So this is an interesting legal matter. It doesn't affect the rank and file of the MDC. They can decide to follow Chamisa, but as long as Chamisa is in the alliance because of this conundrum of the MDC team as a leader of that alliance, it's like the Patriotic Front without ZANU and ZAPU. Why would you call it ZANU PF?
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, Mr. M, got to thank you so much for your time, and to our viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us. Keep on following on our social media platforms. We'll be back again as we continue zeroing in on the judgment and getting different voices, different opinions, and your opinions matter. There's no opinion that doesn't matter. We shall address all your issues, find people that can speak to those issues as well. Mr. M, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day.